A miracle just happened. Starfield got an update. Is it the eat button? No, probably not. That's most likely still paid DLC.
Earlier today, Starfield got a new beta update. This was a roughly 15GB update to the game, and it's only on Steam, at least for
Beta update? So it's not even a real update, huh? Wow.
now. Effectively, Steam users got an early preview and testing phase for this update, as Bethesda is collecting feedback on their Discord server, which I'll have a link to down below if you want to add feedback yourself. And to get this one, simply
Discord server? You're telling me Bethesda could not even add that to the game? So, to help out Bethesda, for free, you need to go and join their Discord server. Probably fill out a completely useless and dumb questionnaire, and then you can maybe submit your feedback that Bethesda will probably not care about even at the end of the day. This is unbelievably crazy. Also, why would you ever want to get the feedback from the people left playing the game? They're the biggest diehard fans that exist, okay? They don't care how bad the game is. They're gonna play it no matter what. YouTube is full of videos, literally millions upon millions of Starfield videos that all, some magically how, complain about the exact same things, okay? Starfield is so badly made that this is the first time in the history of humanity that everyone can agree on what's bad about something, okay? And no, there's no, everyone agrees with what's bad with this game. What more kind of feedback could you ever want, honestly?
opt into the beta on Steam and the update will start downloading, and you could opt out and revert to the public version of the game at any point after that. What was by far the largest change to come from this patch were the performance overhauls. Bethesda added in new upscalers like DLSS and DLSS 3.0 aka frame generation, but also DLAA and NVIDIA Reflex. And while all of these are great additions to the game, they're only for NVIDIA users, but thankfully Bethesda also had some blanket performance improvements that came with this update. Although these are only going to be for higher end systems, or at least Bethesda specifies that. So testing this new update with just FSR2 enabled, none of the other fancy upscalers, I get a roughly 5 FPS gain in Aquila City, which is honestly huge, because this is taking me from 60 to about 65 FPS.
Of course that's huge. A whole whopping 5 FPS. Wow. Unbelievable.
It seems like this is going to largely be thanks to some improved CPU utilization and likely some behind-the-scenes optimization. And it seems like in general, with my specific PC, I'm getting a...
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know anything about computers, but the fact that render latency is this, and for 5 FPS it's almost double, just from being a numbers guy, this kind of like seems a huge red flag. Now, again, I have no idea what render latency actually even means, by the way. I understand latency is delay, but what is render delay? I don't know how that actually plays in. Oh, and wait, actually, one is render latency, and then one is average PC latency? Is that the same thing? I don't even know. But yeah, in any case, this number jumping 2 times for 5 FPS seems like a giant red flag for me.
A few extra FPS in cities. For both New Atlantis and Neon, I noticed 2 to 3 extra FPS consistently. But for better or worse, I only noticed this bump in cities. On some of the more desolate planets, my FPS was almost identical as to what...
Be happy, boys! Bethesda is asking you to download 15 gigabytes for a whopping 2 FPS. Now, I know, some of you are already jumping out of the seats and praising Todd Howard, but it maybe gets better. Someday, maybe you're gonna get 3 FPS.
What it was in the previous version. But I mean, right off the bat, that's a really good start. Aquila City has been the worst performing area of Starfield for me, and like I just got a free FPS bump thanks to nothing but further optimizations from Bethesda. It seems like this definitely should benefit at least a fair amount of users out there. Again, it seems like it's focused towards higher end PCs, but then thankfully you also do have the new addition with DLSS. And I gotta say, this is one of the biggest performance gains I have ever seen in an update for a video game. So comparing DLSS
FPS maximum, crazy.
Assess on the new beta version of the game to FSR from the old version, the current live version of the game, I got about a 40 FPS gain, which is just absolute insanity. And with
Okay, compare these numbers. By the way, this is Nvidia, so, you know, obviously it's going to be better than whatever stupidity Bethesda adds. But look at this. This is a 40 FPS increase, and the render latency hasn't gone up at all. I don't know what 99 FPS means. Oh, that's that's just me doing a guessing game. But yeah, it's like, there's such a difference. So, dude, I don't understand anything about PCs, but I can already be pretty assured just from these numbers that whatever Bethesda has done is incompetent. Wow, that is crazy.
Just a straight up head-to-head comparison on the beta build of the game using FSR versus DLSS, it is a gigantic 30 to 35 FPS improvement. And on my system, this is basically everywhere, both in cities, but even on some of the more desolate planets. In Neon, I was even getting about a 45 FPS boost at points. Aquila City is definitely more CPU bound, so it was a mere 30 FPS climb, but even still, you could see a large bump in CPU utilization here. And that's honestly huge, because this is just with the older regular DLSS. This is much more widely available compared to frame generation, and using this, I'm able to play Starfield with about 100 FPS at all times.
That is a big difference. Imagine if this shit game had that at the start. It wouldn't have saved it in no way, but you know, at least it would have been better.
Compared to the launch version of the game where I would regularly be at 50 to 60 FPS in cities. This is a gigantic improvement. So if you're out there with a 2000 or 3000 series NVIDIA GPU, you're probably going to see some giant performance gains as a result of this. Many of the early online reports are similar, people getting major FPS boosts in Starfield even on some older hardware, and even compared to some of the free DLSS mods of the past. For me, using the DLSS mod did not lead to a huge boost in performance, but clearly here I am getting a huge boost in performance. But if you do have some of the new hardware and do have a 4000 series NVIDIA GPU, you can take advantage of frame generation. And congrats, because now you are always going to be playing Starfield at well over 100 FPS. Comparing frame generation to just FSR2, both on the beta build, I get almost double the FPS at points. And to be clear, this is at 4K resolution with all of...
This is extremely boring also. Okay, so the game runs smoother.
The settings maxed out. And here I'm able to pull over a 100 FPS in every single location, and even if you were somebody relying on a frame generation mod, this is a huge improvement over those mods. The official implementation NPCs would momentarily vanish while playing. But even further, my FPS was just not nearly as stable. I would get 20 FPS jumps at points. It was fine because I was still going from 120 to 140 FPS, but things were very rarely rock solid when using DLSS, particularly with frame generation. But the DLSS presets are also quite bugged.
I love the fact that these shotguns are more accurate than sniper rifles, though. That's crazy.
So whenever you set a certain preset for DLSS, it'll automatically switch to a different preset almost at random. It basically seems like it's shifting over a couple of options depending on whatever option you chose. I was trying to record all of these benchmarks on the balanced mode, but it seems like in reality I was actually recording on the quality mode, unless this is just a visual error and I'm actually on balanced mode, but it's actually saying quality in the menu.
I mean, it wouldn't be surprising because historically every time Bethesda tries to update something, they just introduce more bugs. This was the last actual real patch, by the way, Bethesda did. They introduced a patch that fixed something, and people started complaining that they broke like 2 or 3 major other things that previously were not broken. This is absolutely crazy how Bethesda can just constantly keep screwing it up like this. Honestly, it's impressive.
You for some reason, but hey, that's why this update's in a beta and not actually released yet. And Bethesda did denote a known bug here, as if you do have frame generation on, VSync must be off.
Also, so this means that this is the big thing. Visual changes, quality of life changes. A 1 minute segment. Quality of life changes. Oh no, bug fixes. That's the 30-second segment. Oh no.
for this to work. But
okay, let's skip the stupidity. Let's get to the good stuff.
they added in the ability to adjust brightness and contrast from the menu as well, and HDR brightness can now be adjusted if your system supports it. These changes are incredibly handy for just accessibility and control reasons. Caves are really dark in Starfield, and some people just don't see super good in the dark. So being able to tweak these settings to your desired look is just a great feature to have now. They describe how they improve the performance of NPCs.
Yeah, I mean, these NPCs are still not absolutely disgusting. Yeah, sure. Nah.
His eyes, so hopefully that uncanny staring is gone, and yeah, this is actually a pretty nice improvement. NPCs not only seem to
now they look just dead.
Stare at you a bit
Also, they still stare at you. Oh no, she stopped staring.
less, and
It still looks like, you know, she is possessed by demons, but you know, it's better.
break eye contact more often, but even further, their eyes definitely just look a lot better. The NPCs look a bit more human now, and the stares, even when they do happen, don't take you out of the game as much because of these overhauled eye textures. They added in the ability to eat food found in the world, so now instead of having to pick up that food, you can just consume it as it stands there. On one hand, this
is the big update! Oh my lord! For the average player, they gave the eat food button and 3 FPS. Is this the biggest update Bethesda has ever released for their games? This is history, boys! Man, they're gonna probably pat themselves on the back and, you know, take a 5-year break now or something. Wow! Man! So, how long is this? 3 months? 3.5 months? So, it took them only 3.5 months to add a food button. I mean, in roughly 15 years, we're gonna have a game, boys. Wow. Impressive. I hate Bethesda so much.
This vastly increases the utility of random food items. A lot of the times, if I ran into food, I would just ignore it because I didn't feel like picking it up and then eating it. But now I'll actually interact with those items, eating them pretty much whenever I see them. But food in Starfield still barely heals any HP, making this change great, but kind of pointless. If you're actively playing Starfield and trying to survive, you'll know that food builds don't really do anything. Once you get past level 5, a 5 HP gain from some food isn't really going to make any notable difference. So hopefully later on we do get a proper food rebalance, which will make this aspect of the update far more powerful.
Yeah, no. But you see what's the funniest thing about this? People were not complaining about, like, I wasn't complaining about the food button not being there because I wanted to eat the food so badly. No one was complaining about the food button needing to be there as an integral part of the game. The food button was just a symbol of how bad the game is. In reality, he's completely right. No one is gonna actually... Well, everyone's gonna just constantly eat the food now, but it's not gonna actually be a difference maker. It's just... It's such a small thing, but Bethesda fails so hard they can't even have that little much, okay? That's the thing. That's the thing. This game doesn't actually need a food button. This game needs a proper inventory, a proper story in a game. The food button is just a metaphor for how bad the game is. No one was making videos. We need a food button. Everyone was making videos. We don't even have a food button. It's just a metaphor for how shit the game is in everyone's opinion. Okay? But I'm actually surprised we got it. I had no idea. I have been memeing about the food button for, I mean, even before since the FOV slider. Jeez. This is hilarious and absolutely morally devastating at the same time.
In the patch notes, they describe adjusting stealth to be more forgiving, but I honestly didn't
What
notice
do you
a huge
mean?
difference here. I still feel like enemies were able to notice me from shock.
Dude, If you have max stealth, you're never gonna be visible. If you don't have max stealth, yeah, it's shit. Wow.
Shockingly far away.
Welcome
and
to
even
a
in this
Fallout
head-to-head
game.
comparison, I get noticed in almost the exact same position. So I'm not entirely clear what these stealth changes are. But at least for me, I haven't noticed a ton. But for those of you that do play stealth more regularly,
Well, I'm not gonna lie. You know, you're walking through an open field. Crouching is not just gonna cut it, chief.
in Starfield, let me know in the comments down below. Were there any more minute changes you noticed from this update? And of course, there were a ton of...
Also, for everyone who's my brother in arms who plays stealth characters in every single Fallout game, and yes, Starfield is a Fallout game, you can't prove me wrong, they still have the thing from Fallout 4 where they added the camo stuff that makes you invisible, that you cannot use those guns with iron sights because the sight becomes invisible and you have no idea where you're aiming. Oh boy, man, pain. I mean, they haven't fixed that from Fallout 4, so don't ask them to fix it in Starfield.
Bug fixes to come with this one too. A variety of these were just general fixes to miscellaneous bugs in the game, but far more important were some of the progress blocking quest fixes, of which we got about 10 in total. So if you're running into issues completing the main story, the Freestar questline, Ryujin, or even Crimson Fleet questlines, there is a decent chance that your issue was fixed with this update. Although unfortunately, there is definitely at least some quests that are not fixed.
Game-breaking bugs that don't allow you to progress further in the main story campaign. 10 of them not fixed 4 months pretty much after the release of the game. That's Bethesda quality right there, boys.
From this one. Namely, a ton of the bugs around the ESS constant do not appear to be fixed, as well as some of the bugs during the Divided Loyalties quest. And I feel like this update overall does just leave a lot to be desired. The performance improvements are absolutely fantastic. Bethesda deserves all of the praise on that front. And the FPS bonus I get from this update completely blew me away. I was genuinely shocked when I saw the FPS to the point where I triple checked to make sure my settings were correct. But at the same time, this is leaving me wondering why on earth wasn't DLSS available on release? More FPS.
And again, do not make this mistake. Bethesda didn't add anything. They themselves added 3 FPS to the game. It's already existing systems, they just implemented that they actually work with the game. That's all they did. Bethesda didn't actually increase the FPS. They just did the most lazy thing ever and made it so these systems work in the game, because previously they just didn't. That is crazy.
Isn't going to get me to replay Starfield again. It just seems like a particularly bizarre decision from Bethesda to not include DLSS on release when it's otherwise a standard for most games out there. So now this is absolutely a situation where it's better late than never, but I still am left wondering, why is it late? This would have been really nice about 200 hours ago for my playthrough. Even further, when you look at how long this update took, it's now been over 1 month since the last update to Starfield, 34 changes and fixes in total, which is how many this update had, doesn't really seem like that many. Like, to be clear, this...
Because it's not. Most of these things are also... Dude, someone commented about this in a previous video where we laughed about Bethesda. And their comment was, by the way, extremely perfectly spot on. When there's a game-breaking bug, Bethesda doesn't fix it, okay? But when someone finds a way to go under the floor so they can loot the chest NPCs have stuff in, that Bethesda literally fixes in a matter of minutes, okay? People find a way to make the game less grindy, or, you know, find a way to abuse something that's gonna be used less than 0.0000001% of the player base. Bethesda fixes that in a day. But things that break the game, make it unplayable, or flat out just don't work? Nah. We'll fix that in 2 years or something. This is crazy. Why do they do that? Get under the floor, loot a chest, fixed. It's blinked out of existence. Plus a hit squad was sent to your location if you used the bug. Can't exit the beginner cave because bugs? Sucks to be you. You better not push that refund button, princess. How is this a real situation?
This is the big update. We are just a bit removed from launch, and they've been working on this one for over a month now. Maybe I was misguided, but I was just kind of hoping for some more fixes or changes here. Especially when you consider that this update clearly isn't done yet. There are still bugs with the update, so it'll likely need at least 1 to 2 more weeks of testing.
You can see things just appear into the screen. That's nice.
And in the patch notes, Bethesda describes how this update will be releasing on all platforms later this month. Thanksgiving is coming up in the US, and I can't imagine they're dropping this update that week since it's the single biggest travel week in the US all year, so a lot of devs will likely be on vacation, not working and visiting their families. I wouldn't be shocked if we don't see this update drop publicly for another 2 to 3 weeks in the final few days of November, which definitely creates a weird situation where there's this rather large 7 to 8 week gap in between updates, and this is the size of the update. It's not like it's blowing me away in its scale. The performance improvements are absolutely phenomenal, but there's a lot of bugs that still need to be fixed that definitely aren't included here.
And again, the amount of bugs they will create with this is crazy. Because again, they will create more bugs than they solve. Historically, Bethesda games don't get updated, not only just because the lazies are incompetent, the devs are lazy, incompetent buffoons, but also because the players that are left playing are literally on their knees in front of the Bethesda headquarters begging Todd to not update the game so the mods don't break. That is also a thing. Because, you know, if you're a Bethesda gameplay and you play like Skyrim, how many times are you willing to reinstall 3,252,000 mods every time Bethesda decides to accidentally press the save button on the current version of the game, and there you go, all of your mods don't work again? You know? How many times are you willing to let that slide? It's kind of tough.
Here. But in fairness to Bethesda, they did do a great job at implementing all of these planned features in a surprisingly quick fashion. I for one thought that some of these features wouldn't get added until 2024, but with this update it seems like everything will have been implemented. So as far as this patch overall goes, it's definitely the best patch Starfield has gotten thus far. But I can't help but feel like these updates are just taking a surprisingly long time, and it's not like we're getting a mountain of fixes here. For a lot of games, this update would be on the smaller side based on the number of changes. But I do really like this Steam beta usage here. It seems like a great way to preview and test updates with the community
And yes, again, this is not even a real done deal yet, okay? It's gonna be in the beta stage for forever. That's also a thing.
Weeks before they are launched publicly, and I hope this Steam
And by the way, just my prediction, but considering it's Bethesda, there's a huge chance if you're currently playing Starfield and you use the beta version, that when they decide to finally, after months and months of it being a beta version, to put it live, you will not be able to transition the save, or it's going to corrupt your save or do something like that. Now, it's Bethesda. There's a huge chance that something like that happens.
Beta thing is something they continue to use with future Starfield updates. But that said, that is the recent update to Starfield.
Anyway, that was our boy Juicehead. Delicious, constant Starfield goodness rushing through me. I love it. I'm diamonds, boy. I can't even get up, otherwise it would be demonetization, boys. It is what it is. It's good, boy. Anyway, go subscribe to Juicehead. I love his Starfield videos. They're great. Anyway, this was Kuster Sensei. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.